Bandwidth for This Week in Sales provided by liquidweb.com.
We're always hearing that we need to be creating more value for our customers. But what does that truly mean? And how do we actually do that? Learn how on today's episode of This Week in Sales. Hello and welcome to This Week in Sales. I'm Kevin Gaither, the VP of Sales at BetterWorks here in Santa Monica. You may recall the goal of the show is to help sales professionals with tips and tactics and techniques to help them improve their performance right now. Today's guest is Anthony Iannarino, who is the author of the Sales Blog. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kevin, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Anthony, what's your nightmare sales job?
My nightmare sales job would really be, I got to flip it on you, Kevin, any job that's not in sales, any job where I can't help create value and make a difference for a client would be a nightmare job for me.
Ever had one of those nightmare jobs?
I've had a number of them. I've had a lot of them. Finding my way into sales, including the worst job ever, putting stucco on houses.
Yeah, do that in the middle of the summer, right?
Yeah, not good.
Excellent. Well, good. Well, thanks, Anthony. Before we get going, I think I should introduce you properly then. Anthony Iannarino is the President and Chief Sales Officer of Solutions Staffing, the Managing Director of B2B Sales Coach and Consultancy, an adjunct faculty member in Capital University's School of Leadership and Management. Anthony writes a daily blog post on sales, management, leadership, and success at thesalesblog.com. So Anthony, I've read your blog posts in the past, and especially the blog posts on becoming a level 4 value creator. What are you talking about? What does that mean?
That's a great question. What am I talking about?
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. What I tend to do is to look at a framework and a structure to help salespeople think about this. So the lowest possible level of value that you can create is to give somebody a good product. A good product is an expectation now, and it's not enough value to really differentiate you, and it's really the fastest possible way to be commoditized. If you can create a great product, it can quickly be reverse engineered, and somebody can come up with something that looks just like that very quickly. So the level 1 is where a lot of people with a shiny new object, especially people in software sales or something where there's a great product, they get trapped in features and benefits and that kind of activity. So that's a level 1 value creator, somebody who can sell a good product. Level 2 moves us up, and that's a good service or a great experience. Mm-hmm. And there are companies that build their whole business model around providing you a great experience. Companies like Disney, Branson's company, they're differentiated and defined by that. But for most of us in B2B sales, a great service and a great solution is an expectation as well. So you have to move up at least one rung from a level 2 value creator to be relevant in B2B sales today. And that's a level 3 value creator, which is someone who generates a real and measurable business result. So most of the time, for those of us in B2B sales, when we're out selling, the expectation is that we can help the client create some business result around a problem or an issue that they're having now. That's a great level to be at, but most of us are good enough in sales and at what we do and what we provide clients now that it's easy to be commoditized and it's easy to become irrelevant and complacent because you solve one set of problems really well, and then there are new problems that your offering's not built around necessarily. So what I try to teach organizations to do is to move up to a level 4 value creation. For a salesperson to be a level 4 value creator, they have to be strategic. They have to act as part of their client's management team. They have to own the outcome that they sell. And they have to be somebody who's forward thinking and looking ahead and looking around corners for their clients. So they create a more strategic level of value by bringing their business acumen, their situational knowledge, their understanding of change management and leadership, and their ability to generate a result and to figure out what the future result needs to look like. And I call those level 4 value creators.
Boy, so much to say, but I want to know, why do clients actually need a salesperson with that kind of skill set? I mean, isn't that what management is there for? They've got their MBAs, they've got their 20, 30 years of experience. Why do they need some pissant salesperson to be doing that for them when that's what they should be doing themselves?
Hey, better not be a pissant salesperson right out of the gate, right?
I'm just trying to stir it up,
Yeah, that's a great question.
Anthony.
So here's the thing. It's very easy to get trapped in your own view of the world when you're inside a company and you're in management. You sort of have your idea and your understanding of how things work. And at the same time, you're being asked to do more to generate greater results with fewer resources at any time in history. Lots of things are being outsourced. And what the business world has come to expect from salespeople is, you're going to do the thinking for me. You're supposed to be the subject matter in your area, and you're out in the world talking to other companies that look like us. They have problems like we have, and you're coming up with interesting ideas and solutions for them. You're supposed to help me by bringing me the next idea. I'm busy trying to run my company. And that's why they need us. So they can't do it themselves. They don't have the resources to do it themselves. I wrote a post 2 days ago about how buying has changed. And people think that buyers are going out and doing all this tremendous research. When I talk to buyers and I'm on sales calls, they're not. They don't have time to do it, and they really hope that you show up with ideas that can help them take their business to the next level, and they don't have to do all their own thinking.
Okay. So let me recap, and then I want you to put a real nice, clean bow on what a level 4 value creator is, because you gave me nice sound bites. A level 1 value creator is somebody who, as you said, gives good product. Right?
Yeah.
Somebody who's a level 2 value creator gives good service and good experience, and you mentioned, Virgin and Disney, and I think those are really good examples, obviously, of that. And number 3 is, generates a real and measurable business result. And what you've said is those 3 levels, those first 3 levels, these days those are just table stakes, just to get into the game. But put a nice bow on it for me and the audience at home there. A level value 4 creator is what?
A level 4 value creator is a salesperson that can act as an extension of their client's management team, who can think strategically around their business problems, who can help them move their business forward by bringing them new ideas, and who owns their outcomes.
Okay. All right, good. So the show is all about tips, tactics, and techniques, of course, Anthony. So I'm not going to let you get away with the high level here. What should salespeople do? Because I can envision somebody who's getting out of college and says, great, I believe what Anthony Iannarino is saying. He writes thesalesblog.com. I'm a disciple. But how in the world am I going to go toe-to-toe? I'm 22 and the people I'm talking to are 44, 54. How do I become a level 4 value creator? What steps should I take?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, especially the way you framed it with young people. Young people have a tough road to hoe. They need to have the business acumen now of a good general manager. And it's difficult to get that when you first get into sales, but ultimately that's the right direction to go. I got to figure out how to get business results for other people. And for younger people, that's a tougher road to hoe. But for a lot of us, we've been in sales for a while. And I keep a list that I share with salespeople and sales organizations of 10 things that say, if you want to move from being transactional and at best being a level 3, but maybe even being less than that, to being a level 4, here's some things you can do. So you win a deal. The first thing that you have to do is perform. And when you're in at the transactional level, you're being watched. People are looking to you to see what kind of value you're going to create, and they're keeping score as to how you treat their business. If you treat their business like it's transactional, they treat you like you're transactional. So the first step is when you get in, start performing. It's much easier to create value where you already have a relationship, where you already have a contract, where you already have an agreement, and where you can go in and do good work. The second thing I would recommend is to get in and open more relationships. And we tend to find our way into an organization at one level, and then we're comfortable at that level because we've got a good, warm relationship with people who are receptive to us. But that doesn't get you to strategic. You've got to push the envelope, which means you've got to move horizontally and vertically. You've got to go up and down the org chart. So if you're in at a high level and you've got a sponsor, you've got to dig in and find the problems, what I call the ground truth. What are the people that are actually end users dealing with? You've got to go make those relationships and find out how you can help them create that better result and be strategic. When it comes to relationships, it's good that the salesperson has relationships, but you need to have peer relationships too. And I talk about this in the way of, Kevin, you're old enough to remember the Soviet Union and the Cold War.
Sure.
There was this idea of détente. We need people on our side to know people on their side so we can find a way to work together. And I think too few sales organizations recognize the value, in a major account sales especially, of bringing in their team, their operations team, the people that are responsible for execution and management, to meet with their peers so that that relationship can be strengthened in a way that allows there to be a bigger conversation about how we become strategic and how we create a bigger value than we create now.
Can I stop you for just a second, Anthony?
I hope so.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, geez, I don't even know if we're going to have time with the full 30-minute show to go through all the 10 here, but let's talk about tactically when you've talked about getting in and then opening up more relationships and moving up and down and around that org chart there. How does a salesperson actually go about doing that? Hey, Jane Doe, we're doing business already. I'd like to introduce my VP of Finance to your VP of Finance. For what reason? Is that how it goes?
Yeah, absolutely. And that conversation needs to sound like this. Jane, we've been doing business for a while, and I think that we have the ability to do far more in the way of creating value for you and giving you a greater return on your investment than we are now. What I'd like to recommend is that we set up some peer relationships so some of my people that can help us do that can meet some of your people. And this would be my first recommendation, would be to have our CFO talk to yours, because there's an issue here around money that we can definitely help you get a bigger return on your investment. It takes courage to do that. And I think for a lot of salespeople, they're afraid to push because they know that there are some people within their client organization that are going to be protective of that relationship and who will be threatened by losing control of it when you start bringing in other groups. But ultimately, Kevin, this is the easiest way to think of it. A lot of salespeople go in and they make that call and they're comfortable where they are, but they really know deep down that they need other people involved in that deal from the client side. The best thing to do is to do it early and to say, Jane, early on in this, we find out that we do our very best work if we have communications with your IT department and your accounting department and some other departments that are key to getting us this outcome. It's best if we bring them in early. Who do you think we should bring in so that we can start having a conversation that ensures we get you the result that you want?
That's all. I mean, that should almost be brought up in the qualification phase of the conversation, if I'm hearing you correctly.
It could be in the qualification stage for sure.
Right. Just so that
the sooner the better.
That's right. The sooner the better. And frankly, well, actually, let me pose it to you. What if you find that prospect actually wants to silo their power and won't grant you access? What would you do in that particular situation?
That's a tough question. It's a tactical question, though, and I hate tactical questions, but I'm going to answer it for you anyway. We're giving away our trade secrets here. So one thing is, if you have to protect that relationship, you can have somebody above you call somebody above them on the other side, because it sort of takes it out of your hands. And when you get called on the mat for having done so, you can say, I don't have any control over my boss. I apologize. I didn't know he was going to do that or she was going to do that. It's difficult to protect that relationship. But my first default position and my first recommendation for any salesperson is to go and be honest. If you want to be a trusted advisor and you want to have the big conversation and you want to be strategic, you can't be afraid of having this conversation and say, look, I know that we've got this relationship, but really to take you to the next level, we need to bring other people in. And I want to assure you that I'll protect our relationship and I'll make sure you've got the final decision on how we proceed, but we really need to bring some help in here.
That's great. I love how you're phrasing that. We really need to. That's fantastic. Good. All right, so we've talked about the first two.
Three.
Well, there was performing, right? Get in there and perform. 2, get in and open more relationships.
Yeah, and so there's horizontal and vertical relationships, and then there's peer relationships. So I think bringing in other people is a separate issue.
Okay.
Well, the reason you have those relationships is so you can take a deeper dive and discover your client's business objectives. If you're transactional and you behave transactionally, you're treated that way. But when you sit down and you've developed these relationships and you start talking about your client's real business objectives, how do they compete? How do you help them be more competitive in their space? How do you become part of their strategic advantage? And what does that mean you have to deliver for them? When you take a deeper dive into those conversations, it gives you the ability to figure out how to be more strategic, especially when you can focus on their business improvement instead of each individual transaction. Did the shipment come on time or whatever the case may be? It's a great way to get an education. And now we're getting to probably my favorite one. And this is the most important thing I would recommend on this list. If you were just going to take one of these and say, how do I get started being more strategic? Bring your clients' ideas. You have ideas. When I ask salespeople and I press them and I say, if you had a chance to sit down with this client today and make one recommendation that would help them get the result that they really need, what would that suggestion be? And they almost always know. If we could just get them to do this, we could massively improve the results they're getting. They need you to bring them those ideas, and your ideas are what make you strategic. And as a salesperson, you're out collecting these ideas in the field. You're looking at what your company does for other clients. It's your obligation to go and get in front of your client and share the strategic ideas that will help you create more value for them. Keep going or pause?
Keep going. Keep going. I'll follow up when need be, but keep plowing away.
6, business review meetings, and I can't underemphasize how important and overlooked this is, but just saying, I want to get my team to sit around your conference room table with your team, and I want to review what have we done, what works, what doesn't work, and then the big question, what's coming down the pipe for you? What do you need us to know so that we can start making the adjustments to how we do business so we can be better for you? Most sales organizations overlook the value of these conversations, and I hear things like, well, we're doing fine, and if we weren't, they would tell us. It's not about how we're doing now. That's transactional. It's about what's coming in the future, and how do we help them get to that future themselves. And the better we do on that, the better we do at being a strategic advantage and a level 4 value creator.
How often should those conversations be having?
I think for a large client, at least quarterly. But early on in the relationship, I think the 30 and the 60-day mark tend to give you some information so that you've got enough to say, I've got ideas that we should talk about now so we can start making adjustments. But at minimum quarterly, and I don't know what your experience is, Kevin, but my experience is that the business environment is changing so rapidly that your client needs to have this check-in every quarter so they can start helping you help them get better results.
Right. Well, you certainly, regardless of the cadence of communication, that you should be regularly talking with them, number one. And number two, you also mentioned earlier on, and whatever earlier on in your business is, you should be talking to them more frequently in the early stages, and then in a regular cadence in the later stages, whatever those may be, regardless.
Regardless, and unless there are events that dictate we need to get together more frequently because their business is changing so dramatically, or yours is changing so dramatically.
That's right. And it certainly ties to the previous strategic idea there, is bringing your clients' ideas. That check-in call, hey, let's have a 30-minute call just to find out how things are going, is probably a BS way to be positioning this, of course, right?
I think so. And if you get everybody around a conference room table, it says, we're here to deal with a big issue. What are those big issues? If it's the check-in call, that suggests, hey, everything's fine. You don't really want to take a deep dive, so I'm not going to give you a deep dive anyway.
Exactly. Does this also apply for people that are selling, I don't know, oil filters to Jiffy Lubes down the street?
It's funny that you say that, because I wrote a post about the level of value creation and the sales skills that are required at each level. And my friend Dave Brock pushed back on me when I said commodity buyers are more difficult to create value for, and you don't need to be more than a level 1 or level 2. And he pushed back and said there's a ton of value being created for commodity buyers right now in purchasing and supply chain management and ease of order and ease of doing business with and matching it up to client needs. So I guess a week ago I would have said in the oil filter business, if it's a transactional sale, because that's what it is, it's difficult and not necessary. But if it's 1 million oil filters for Napa, it's probably a strategic purchase or something where a lot of value could be created.
Okay. All right. Good. Let's keep going. So have your business review calls. What else?
Show them their future. Sorry, I just lost a light here. Hang on a second. Can I pause?
Sure. Have you fixed your light? We're still live. We're still shooting live here.
I'll just roll with it then if you think the video's okay.
Your video looks fantastic, actually.
Okay, I'm good then.
You look gorgeous, Anthony.
I think we have the same barber.
We do.
So I think that your client is depending on you now to show them their future. They need to know what they should be thinking of next. And when you can come in and say, we see you here, but we have products and services and ideas and solutions right now that if we were able to implement them, would take you further down the line in value creation than you are now. And I think that when you can show them that, look, this is going to help you go from where you are to a better result. This is something before you do a needs analysis, before a diagnosis, before they're dissatisfied. If you can go in and show them what their future looks like, it makes you strategic. It means that you're somebody that's worth talking to because you've got ideas that can move them forward.
All right.
Couple
good.
more?
Yes, please. Keep going. We're bringing it on home.
If you want to be strategic, tell them what you want. Tell them what they need to give you and what you want from them. So there's nothing wrong with saying, I think we can make a bigger difference for you in this area. And I'd like to sit down with you and discuss how we can work together to get that advantage. We want to be a strategic partner for you. And for us, that means that we have to deliver value in this way. And I need you to give me access to these individuals, this information, permission to pilot something, whatever it is. But I think the more honest you can be about what you want, the more you give the impression that you're here as more than a salesperson. You're here as part of their management team, and you're somebody that's going to help them bring their business to the future.
Mm-hmm. And once again, you've used the I need or we need to be able to do X, Y, and Z for you, which is it's a bold statement. And if you haven't established a good level of trust up the rungs, you can't say those things without sounding kind of disrespectful, right?
I think so. I think you need strong relationships. I think, and I've written about this a number of times, all things being equal, relationships win, and all things being unequal, relationships still probably win. Mm-hmm. Two more quick ones. The bigger the problem that you tackle for your client or your dream client, the more strategic you're going to be. So if you're dealing with what all of your competitors do at that level 3, I can get you a business result, and you're not dealing with the biggest, nastiest, hairiest problem that they have in their business, it's very difficult to be strategic. And I don't know we'll have a lot of people listening and watching this. I don't know what your business, your client's challenges are, but you do. And you know the ones that you're afraid to take on. Those are the ones, by taking on those challenges, you become a strategic partner rather than a sales rep. Mm-hmm. And then the last one is, if you want to be strategic, you've got to be strategic. How do you like that for circular logic? You've got to own the outcomes. And the bigger the outcome you own, if it's bigger than we're going to deliver product on such and such a date, the more strategic you can be. So it really comes down to the attitude that you bring to this, the mindset you bring, and whether or not you're going to take responsibility for being a level 4 value creator.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You know, I wanted to step back to number 9. You know, the bigger the problem, the more strategic you can be. As we discussed prior to the show, I'm reading the Challenger sale right now, and they challenge the concept that a salesperson is going to walk in and say, tell me, what's keeping you up at night? What are your biggest problems? Tell me what your top 3 initiatives are for the year, and instead going to come in with the hypothesis. I deal with other customers that look and smell just like you, and they see these 3 things as their main problems. How does that sound to you, or is there anything you can add to that? You're saying the bigger the problem, the more strategic you can be. How do you feel like still asking what those big problems are, or do you believe in that hypothesis method?
I don't believe that these ideas are mutually exclusive. I mean, I think that we come to clients and we take them as they lie. You know, we found them in a certain place. When they're dissatisfied and you walk in and they say, look, I got 3 problems I need you to help me with, the right answer is not to say, well, you know what, I have a hypothesis about what some other problems might be. Okay, what good is that? If they're dissatisfied already, it's fine to ask them about what's keeping them up at night because they've told you they're dissatisfied or you've picked that up. If they're not dissatisfied, then having a hypothesis about how you can help is a great idea. And I think that for people who already have accounts and they need deeper penetration and they want to move from transactional to strategic, the Challenger model is a particularly useful model because it says, I'm not going to accept the status quo. I've discovered some things about people that look like you where we're able to create a lot more value, and I want to talk about them. And I think that's what makes it so compelling for sales organizations.
Excellent. So, Anthony, let's round this off here. Do me a favor and just go through those 10 one more time for the guys playing at home here.
Okay, no problem. So number one, if you've bitten off more than you can chew, chew. So start performing so that you've got the groundwork laid to do bigger and better work. Open new relationships vertically and horizontally, which means go up to the C-suite and go down to the bowels of the organization so you can discover what the real truth is about why they're having whatever business issues you can help them with. Open peer relationships, which means find people within your organization and match them up with their peer on the other side so that you could start having a higher level conversation about what your client or your dream client's real goals and ambitions are and what their real business challenges are. Discover their business objectives. It's not enough to drop a product or a service off at their door. You have to understand what outcome they need from you and then work on owning that outcome. Continually bring them a steady stream of new ideas about how they can generate better results in their business. Do their thinking for them or part of their thinking for them and act like part of their team. Schedule regular business review meetings and schedule them so that when you're with your client, there's an expectation that we're going to talk about the big issues and we're not just on a check-in call. Mm-hmm. Give them a vision of their future. Show them where they should be going based on what you know about other organizations that look like them. Tell them what you want. Tell them that you want to be strategic and tell them what you want from them to allow you to create more value for them. Find and tackle the biggest problems that they have. The more strategic and the higher value the problem you solve, the more strategic and more valuable you can be. And then behave strategically at all levels. If you're going to act like a strategic advantage in a partner, act like that. Dig in, become part of the client's management team, be somebody that they count on to think and bring ideas and have a presence.
Very good. Thanks for the summary. Anthony, that's all we have for this week. I really appreciate you coming on the show. It's been great.
I was just getting warmed up, Kevin. We have a long way to go.
We could have gone for 2 hours, right? Maybe we have a part due somewhere down the line.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to.
Fantastic. Well, for those at home, if you have additional questions for me, feel free to email me at askkevin@thisweekin.com. Of course, like our Facebook fan page, This Week in Sales. Tweet at us at Sales Week. Of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/show/This Week in Sales. And finally, go for our podcast, both audio and video, on iTunes. Next week, we're going to have Jeb Blunt on the show, who is the founder, president, CEO of the Sales Gravy. And we're going to be talking about how your sales manager is stealing your paycheck. Thanks for joining us this week and have a great week of selling.